Town of East Troy to order. It's 5:30 p.m. on Monday, May 23rd. Roll call, Parkowski here.
Will here. Walker here.
Reyes here. Church here.
All right, give our postings in order for tonight's meeting.
Yes.
All right. We have the first item on the agenda is resolution 2022-6. We should just have that handed to you.
Do you want me to go ahead and?
Yeah, reading and levying the collection taxes, yes, go ahead, please.
It's a resolution approving the levy and collection of taxes for Shorewood Drive road maintenance. It reads, whereas the town of East Troy has provided snow plowing for the 57 households on Shorewood Drive, a private road, for many years. And whereas the town of East Troy has had to recently notify said residents that the condition of their private road was in such disrepair that the town would have to cease providing snow plowing services until the private road was repaired. And whereas the plat of Shorewood was accepted by the town of East Troy in 1925 with limiting language that the town would not build, maintain, or improve the roads as shown on the plat. And whereas a request was made to the town board of the town of East, or that the town of East Troy improve the condition of Shorewood Drive so that snow plowing services could continue. And whereas under Wisconsin statute section 82.25, the town board may levy and collect a tax on property located in a recorded and filed plat that existed on January 1st, 2003. And whereas the tax levy would be on the residents of the town of East Troy whose homes on Shorewood Drive necessitate the regular use of Shorewood Drive. And whereas the town board of the town of East Troy had approved this tax levy at its May 23rd, 2022 special town board meeting. And whereas the town of East Troy clerk is authorized to place such charge upon the tax rolls as long as said tax does not exceed 3 mils for each dollar of assessed valuation thereof. And now therefore be it resolved, 1, that the town of East Troy clerk is authorized and directed to place a tax for highway taxes as authorized in this resolution in Wisconsin statute section 82.25 upon the tax rolls of residents along Shorewood Drive in the town of East Troy if the said tax does not exceed 3 mils for each dollar of assessed valuation thereof as determined by the bids received for the road improvement. 2, that the town board shall not expend any of the funds collected under this section on a private driveway. 3, that the amount of annual tax per residential unit shall be determined after the town obtains the financing terms for any loan it will incur and the costs associated with the town of East Troy clerk's time for obtaining the loan information, bringing the loan information to the town board, determining the annual tax per residential unit, and preparing the tax bills for the residential units affected is determined. A separate resolution identifying the amount of tax per residential unit shall be prepared for approval by the town board once the amount of tax is determined. In today's date.
Is mills 1 L or 2 L's?
In the statute it said, boy, it must have had I think in the statute it says 3 mil.
Two places it appears. Straight.
But this language is from the statute, so
Oh, so that's how.
I would have to double check. Or there's statute books up in the courtroom.
Somebody could Google it and have their phone too.
Mine in the car.
State statute 8225.
No, just Google mill, M-I-L.
Oh, just that.
Yeah,
You check the statute, I'll check.
just need the word, you don't need the statute.
Well, but if Jim said that's the way it's written in there, we could certainly use that.
I think it probably only is one in the statute.
Do I remember seeing that?
When would the road actually be reconstructed?
Whenever the DPW can find time to do it, and whenever we get bids for it.
Be later this year.
Still this year?
Yeah, Yeah, and,
MIL is 1,000.
Okay, so it's one.
One L.
Although in 82.25, it is spelled the way Jim had it.
Okay,
Not exceeding 3 MILLS for each
Okay.
dollar of assessed
Well, then we
valuation.
Since this comes right from the statute, we should keep the two L.
all right, let's mark it again.
You're gonna have to get it from somewhere.
Yeah, it is funny.
All right, well, we should have a motion, a second, and then discussion before we vote.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution 2022-6, resolution approving the levying and collection of taxes for Shorewood Drive Road maintenance.
Shorewood Drive.
Sure, right, road, maintenance.
But that's what the.
That's what it says
Oh.
on the resolution.
Shorewood
Road
Drive
maintenance.
Road maintenance.
Yes.
Right,
Road is not part of the road,
road maintenance
but
for
that's what we're
Shorewood Drive.
doing.
I'll second.
Right,
The only
yeah.
amendment was the of, that
Yeah,
Jim
1,000 in the
mentioned.
middle,
Yes.
page one, yeah. All right, discussion. Before we vote. We said we had,
I think as
4
long,
times, I think we kicked this around a little bit.
I think as long as there is a state statute allowing us to do that, we owe it to the constituents to facilitate their road being done.
And the 57 is, quite a large number, and that's why it became harder to get consensus, especially since it's not a homeowners association officially.
Right.
Right, so that's the other factor. I think that's the right thing to do.
Bob Price said that they were meeting
Bob's
this
just-
oh, hi Bob.
I apologize, Moreland Road was shut down, I texted Joe.
Did you have your meeting like the Saturday after that town board
We
meeting?
did, we had our meeting last Saturday.
Okay, and what was discussed?
What was discussed was how it was gonna be, split up, was it gonna be by footage, or was it gonna be split evenly? Everyone said split it evenly, it wasn't unanimous, but there was an overwhelming majority that said split it evenly. And there are gonna be no changes to the road, so we're not straightening out the end of the road, we're not gonna widen it. It was voted to redo the road as it was the plot survey stated.
Good, because I don't know if the statute section authorizing this allows us to do any new road configuration on a private road or not.
Has there been any discussion at all about, forming a homeowners association type of thing for this, I mean, we all know they don't last forever, to where when it comes to that time, it's something you guys can figure
Bob
out.
would be the answer to that, because you've been trying for years, I think, right?
We've never, there's a lot of people against homeowners associations, down our road, there's some people that want them, and it's more to do busy work, but along with the homeowners association comes the legal fees of organizing it, then you've got the dues, then you've got the meetings, it's a lot more complex. And I've lived there for 18 years, so the only time we've ever needed something like this was now for the road. Everything else has just been taken care of by people pitching in if there's branches or tree work that needs to be done.
Yeah, I can understand that, in that situation, and I've said it before, and I think this is a good idea, but it worries me for future of us doing this for others, but, we're pretty much taking loans out, and I love our community, I love the people in it, but it worries me a little bit, but I've said my piece on that before, but I'm glad we're able to help out.
You also specified, the clerk's time. Are we assuming that Todd is gonna get the bids?
Yeah.
Todd's been working on
We have it the same way,
Yeah.
our jobs are handled.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kim had mentioned at the last meeting to include attorney time. I did not put this in the attorney time in the resolution, because when I spoke with Bob said, I understood when this first came up that the clerk's time was going to be included, but there was no mention of attorney time at the time it was being discussed.
But when we discussed it, it said, or whatever needs to come out, when we were talking originally, it was the clerk's time or whatever other fees.
Yeah.
And
We
that was,
talked-
that was,
And the example was interest, I think.
right, which,
Because
you know, I agree.
why should a Beulah Heights tax dollar pay for a Shorewood Drive issue?
Attorney issue.
Okay,
So that's not
Well, it
in
was-
here,
But it was
but
all fees is what was under, the original
Yeah.
discussion was, or
I
whatever
didn't-
fees needed to be.
Right, I didn't want it to cost the town anything, I'm not trying to stick it to the
No,
town,
no, I
but I
understand.
don't want it to feel like it's being stuck to us either, cause
No,
I've sat in several meetings where Attorney Mills has researched things out for other people. Have they been billed? I just saying fair across the board. If you guys bill us for it, you know, that's fine. We'll take it. You know?
well, usually when I'm researching it, so I can advise the board as to what the law says on a particular issue that I know is coming up.
Sure.
Yeah,
So
you're-
maybe it's just your time to draft the resolution? I don't know.
Whatever you guys think is fair. We're fine.
How long did it take you to put that together?
Not long. I mean, the part was finding authority to even do it in the first place.
right.
And how long was that?
I don't know, that was a couple months ago now already.
Bill, any thoughts? You good?
I'd ask my questions.
Okay.
I would say we shouldn't charge for the attorney fee at this juncture. I think they need to move on this, and this needs to be enacted as is at this time.
Yeah, I think it's taken long enough that we need to
Yeah, it's been.
finalize this.
To vote?
Let's call the question.
Okay, we, had a discussion, so on a motion to approve resolution 2022-6. For resolution approving the levying and collection of taxes for Shorewood Drive road maintenance. On a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, 5-0. Right, you want me to sign this one?
Yes, please.
And that's just not to exceed 3 mils of assessment, correct? Okay.
So I don't know when you walked in, there's going to be a separate resolution once we figure out what the cost is and whether or not the bid cost is under the 3 mils.
I'm willing to go get the estimates. It's my understanding that Todd needs to do it because it's a township
We need to do it.
project. Okay, that's fine.
You can tell them who to ask if you find some good bids.
Okay, item number 4, discussion regarding policy for employee resignations.
So I think this was Chad. Chad and I had a discussion regarding whether we have a policy when someone resigns as to what gets turned in. And I don't think that the town has one, but I think we should have something in writing that says, in addition to your keys, you need to turn in all passwords that you use. You need to suspend use of whatever town issued email address that you have. And I'm not sure if you guys still use, is it Beekman?
The gentleman who does our IT kind of stuff for us.
Bill Ryder?
Oh, Reuter.
Yeah.
Reuter. If you could contact him in advance of someone's resignation date to make sure that it stops.
Actually, cause you had talked to me before you had talked to Jim, so then when John came in, I talked to him, and he said that because the Chief Jensen was the administrator for all the town emails, that got all turned over to John. John stopped the chief's access to his email. All of those emails that were going to the chief's email are now forwarded to John's email. And then he did turn all his keys, fobs, all that stuff got turned over.
So here's my question, and this is why it was brought up. It's actually like, I mean, it's a security reason. I think it's very important.
I think it's a
So,
general best practice.
But at the same time, you know, and I had a discussion with my wife, and that's how it came up, and the way they practice is it's shut off, they have 0 access, but they actually have an administrator, even though, like, that person is the owner of the company. So we're a little different here in the sense of who would we put in charge, you know, the way I'm thinking about it, but actually having a company or something, because if you're the administrator, you can come going and look, not that you can look at my emails all day long, but if you're the administrator, then that means in most places that person has access to all the email accounts that are on there and can go on anytime they want.
Yeah.
So, you know, now here we're in a process of hiring a police chief or a chief. Well, I mean, and I'm not saying there's any wrongdoing whatsoever here, I'm just saying it's a big concern of mine just for security, but, you know, if John's one of the applicants, but we have now all the applicants emailed to us, in theory.
Right.
Look at where we're sitting, I think we need to really, this is very important, and I think we need to look into something where either it's a company, which I know that's availability, can hold the administrative part of it to give emails so that we never have a question. You know, I would hate for any questioning to come up about anything, in the security reasons, because I even got a phone call, you know, about something with the emergency management from, you know, the retired chief, and he got the email. You know, and this was, all of a sudden it came into question, well, how, you know, if it's coming to that email, then why is he, how are you getting email? So that's what kind of triggered the conversation, but you know, with my wife and their company, they deal with the federal government direct, you know, so they're a little bit higher of, you know, security reasons, but I really think it's important that, we look into something where somebody or a company
Somebody
deals
control
with this,
Somebody,
controls it, not, it doesn't need to be any, you know, and it's not that I don't trust anybody, it's just, I think we could get ourselves in
I think,
possibly get a big world hurt, so to speak, or a real problem here. you
I
know?
think that's a excellent point, I mean, it closes the door on any speculation,
Sure,
and I like
Sure.
that.
In most, as you know, most larger companies, their IT department, there is an administrator, and yes, they indeed can see them all, you know, and, but they're the only person who can see them
Right.
all. Other than if it comes to you.
unless they
Right.
get permission.
So this is more of a policy thing than it is, a statement in a contract.
I don't know if you want someone other than the town board to be seeing town business emails, because
Or police.
Right.
There's confidential emails people get, there's all sorts of.
I send, legal opinions to the board by email, and I don't know if that's attorney-client privilege may be broken if there's a third party that is able to read everything I'm telling you.
But couldn't it be someone like, do we have Bill Rader on contract at all, or
Years ago.
what if we write
Send them
a
to me.
contract for an IT consultant?
And you can, I've been
And put those
told
parameters.
that you can do that, you know, you can have an IT company run everything, and you don't have to touch a thing, or you can hire them as needed basis, so let's just say, you know, we have a new hire, or a board member comes and, you know, you voted, you can just call, hey, could you do us a favor and change that out? You know, lock that email out, lock any access to that person out of the town, and they can do that for you, so it's not necessarily the.
I think as long as we have someone that can come in with little or no notice to stop communication with a email recipient, that's sufficient.
And IT people don't typically have to physically come in.
No, they don't.
They do it
They
online.
just do it from off-site. They would be like, yep.
I mean, rather than have someone manage or have access to view all emails,
Well, I think that comes with the administrator access.
Well, your IT company would almost be your administrator, is
Right.
what we're saying in this
Right.
sense, because there's
And
not
so then I
really
think
an
we'd have to
owner
have a
or somebody
contract.
that owns those.
confidentiality.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'd have a policy and then we'd hire out an IT firm with a contract.
Well, stopping access, that's about the easiest thing we talked about. Like what John did is that the chief's town of East Troy went away, it's gone, doesn't
And who
exist
set up
anymore.
yours?
So I think, you know, shutting it off, that's the easy part.
Right.
You know, but right now,
They
when we set it up, actually the chief is the one that got Rackspace, and he was the administrator of that, so to speak. Okay, but, you know, I don't think, as being an administrator, I don't think it was necessarily a situation where he had control of everybody's email.
Sure.
You didn't have control, but I
You
think
can
you
look
probably
into
had
any
view access.
emails, absolutely, that's what an administrator,
Well,
the whole thing
And that's
does.
probably what John
That-
has now.
And I'm not
I don't
saying
know.
anybody did or is doing anything wrong, I'm just saying that we have potential, I think this has potential to be a real problem for us in the township. And I think that this day and age is very important to make sure that we are secure, and that even if someone else is doing it besides anybody that actually is working for the town, and I trust everybody and all that, but this is a big issue. I mean, I know companies, your laptop, your IT people strip it, they should look at your cell phone and make sure they take off all of that stuff, because if somebody's even they're still getting that access, that email address on their personal stuff, I mean, how am I, after you're done, am I getting the call to forward an email back to me? I mean, obviously, whatever we're doing isn't, I don't know that it's enough. And that's-
I know
that's
our
my
IT person,
Mhm.
before they can even work remote or have access to my office computers,
Mhm.
they have to call me first,
Mhm.
then they have to obtain like a 9-digit email from some third party. He does not have access until I call him back with that 9-digit code.
Okay.
So he can't read my emails or do anything on my computer.
Yeah, we have something similar with, Bill Reuter.
Mhm.
He actually, we have to be on the phone, I have to hit, it's an app,
Mhm.
you have to hit the app, a code comes up, I have to give him that code,
Mhm.
and then he can access.
Mhm. To
my
do
computer.
off-sites, to
Flash.
get into your system, but what I'm asking, you, no one can answer is who's the administrator and what kind of access they have. And I think that that's.
But I know that the
important.
chief Jensen was able to, cause he set everybody's up, including my own,
Right,
but then he had to, like, I don't even know what my password is, it just comes up on my computer, my
Mhm.
email does. So if I had to get it off of, say, a laptop, he had the ability to go in and change that, and that's not necessarily ideal either, cause.
I know he didn't have my password. So he didn't have everybody's password, because that was.
But-
right.
But if you
I-
But
forgot
as
your
administrator,
password,
yeah.
he could go in and change it
Right.
for you, so.
and I don't know, it's just,
I'd like to have a discussion with Rackspace themselves and see exactly, them as that host, okay? Exactly what they can and can't do, okay? Maybe there's more they can do, maybe there's less they can do, but I don't think there's a situation here where, information is open. I mean, I can't claim anybody else's.
because you're not the administrator.
Right, but question is where does Rackspace fit in here? Okay, I'd like to have that discussion with them. And you said you had a discussion with them?
I've never
No.
talked to them.
What
Chief
you talking about?
Jensen, yeah.
Interestingly enough, with the town website, they also offer Rackspace emails.
And that's where
And they-
it went through. That's where the chief went through town web to get all our emails. He followed them.
So I think we need to find out a little bit more what's going on here, but I think the point is well taken here. There's nothing like right now to make sure that we're operating the way we all feel secure with, whatever that is, okay?
Bill has a question. So Chad, is your concern less about resignation? It's more about security than our IT?
Yeah,
So we had a
absolutely.
resignation that triggered questions, but it's IT security.
Yeah, it is really the security, it was actually just a conversation my wife and I were having, and then it was, solving the world's problems, as they say, and all of a sudden we just started discussing it, and we said, man, that's a good question to ask about the township, and how important it is for a lot of businesses and companies to make sure, they have that employees that are no longer working here, whether they retire or they quit, or anyway, none of that matters, it's just a matter of what access they still have to town information, or possible. is
But
really
I
what
think it
is.
would be good to have a policy regarding that
I do
as
too.
well.
I'd like someone to just, and sign that you have nothing on your personal, it really just, I think it's very important.
I would like to continue the part of the discussion about our emails. Cause that is, in a month, I've already branched into multiple places on topics and information coming. I wonder, who has access to that? So it's part of the discussion.
And I'd like to have a discussion with my son on this, cause that's what he does for a living, he's a security guy. And a lot of these questions, I know he would spell right out, because that's what he does every day. But I would also like to have that discussion with the people that were actually, you know,
I know part of the resignation, you mentioned passwords and stuff. I just want you to know that some of the passwords I had to set up are specifically to me. Like ARPA, I had to, get blood and everything else. I had to download my driver's license, give them my personal identification information, and that stuff cannot be passed on. But, so.
Well, what the actual password is to be passed on, whether or not they're gonna be able to do anything with it, but at least it would be,
They would have access to what I have access. You have to set up, like, for WAMS IDs and
Right.
ESLA and, a lot of stuff, ETF.
so if
That
something were
stuff
to
is
happen to
specific to
you,
me.
and
Someone would have to go
Jean
in.
had to
She'd
fill
have to
in.
sign up for all that stuff.
But at least it would be good for her to have a list of everything that you need
Of
access to.
Where, yes, and that I do have, I have
Okay.
a whole, yeah,
Find it.
but,
well, they
Yeah.
might ask, maybe the town of East Troy, they might wanna know what the previous password was in order for them to
actually,
change it.
a lot of stuff is by email address, and then you have to,
and most passwords,
and a lot of like,
um,
questions, like,
Sure.
your first pet and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
but good policy is, again, it's your password, is to change them every month anyway, so anybody would find it once, it doesn't matter, it's gonna disappear anyway. So changing your password is obviously a good thing, monthly, okay? But then Kim's question would be, you'd have to have that in case you become incapacitated, that you can continue to.
And when I was in the hospital, I walked Jean through a lot of stuff
Yep,
to
she's
be able to
listening.
pay, like, our employee health insurance premiums and different things like that. I just walked her through because it's all online, but, yeah.
Well, the same thing would happen when Leslie resigned. Like you said, attorney-client privilege information and making sure that's all shut off.
Okay. I think we should, put this on next month's too, to see, I'd like to make those calls, and you guys can certainly do, research too, but I don't think the password deal is necessarily, an issue unless you guys got a password and never changed it ever. That's the thing.
Right.
Change it.
And what I'm saying is I think the password deal is an issue, because if you're an administrator, you don't need a
When you talk about
password.
the
It's the
I'm saying you don't
administrator,
need a
yeah.
password, and that's my whole thing, is that maybe trying to have that with somebody who's not involved with town business, so then they can change things for us on an as-needed basis.
So it's really three things. So when we talk about policy, we have to, nail down who the administrator is and what they can do. And then I want to have a discussion with Rackspace to see if there's anything that they are currently doing that is what we're talking about here. I don't think so. They just supply.
To help with security.
Yeah, and
Which is very
store,
important.
I believe they store, I'm up to 9,000 emails, I think. Whenever we got into Rackspace, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that. So 2,000 a year. Maybe. Okay,
So who's gonna follow up on what? Kim, will you reach out to Bill Ritter, or?
Yeah, well,
see what he doing, what he can do. He would know these answers.
Or the administrator can
Maybe a
access, right?
recommendation.
yeah.
I mean, I can reach out to like a few companies, just ask them questions on how that all really works.
And do the same thing on that.
And the Wisconsin Town Association help.
Not really, they don't get into that too much other than best practices, because, it'd be different if they were actually the host, but no, we're going through Rackspace, that's really,
Oh, does WJ offer a hosting with email?
I don't think so. I know at one time they were talking about, I don't think they ever did it, because there's so many places available for that, it'd be a duplication. I mean, they have such things as, you know, insurance guidance and, you know, stuff like that, but not, IT. I just don't see that get involved with
With the number of towns and their limited staff, I don't know how they could.
Well, the reason it was brought up is at a time when they, again, this is 10, 15 years ago, was, it would have been an easy place, a one-stop shop deal, okay, this is what I want to do it. I don't think they would.
And I can reach out to Bill and see, you know, because I know that he's been with the town since before I started, so over 18 years, he's a very, you know, reputable person, and he's an outside, you know, and he's done stuff in the police department, he's done stuff in the courtroom, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, clearly he's someone that we're comfortable with and he has access today, that if we put policies around it in the contract.
Kim, is there a network within clerks that you
Yeah, we
can
have a
ask this
clerks network.
question?
Sure, I can put that on the Clerks network too.
Security, is it's security and password control? Is that-
Who has access to it and how does it work? And if one in particular person in the town has it, I think that maybe not the best practice, but I don't know, but that's why I wanna look into it for security reasons and such, cause like I said, I know people that are administrators over all their emails, and it doesn't matter what password you put in when you're the administrator, they can go through anything, and I'm not saying anybody is, but I think that's a big deal in certain situations, and if we could.
Okay, very good. Item 5, set up meeting with police department employees. I think the biggest challenge there is gonna be getting a time when you can have all the officers together. And I would think that would be some type of a shift change, like the 2 o'clock deal, where morning shift is done, evening shift is starting.
We were discussing having it prior to a regular town board meeting. And that would be the best bet, and who can come, and who cannot come.
That would be the easiest for us. I don't know how many you think we would get. Maybe a majority.
I would suggest prior to the July 11th town board meeting.
Is this a closed agenda meeting?
It would be a closed meeting, yes,
Do
absolutely.
we have any idea of the topics that they wish to discuss with us?
You weren't really given any, I don't think.
I think generally, they wanted to, hear and talk to us directly. That's kind of the overall thing. So the questions could be almost anything, you know? Police department going,
Yes.
what, like the one item was the, already started was the mental health care option, you know? Those are all things that I think could be brought up, but mainly it's for them to sit right there and ask us questions directly, direct.
I did review that policy and found nothing wrong with it, but told him to reach out to the union first to see if they wanted anything more in there.
Which policy do?
The one that John presented,
The mental health
Yeah.
policy.
So Kim, you're thinking July, not June?
I was told one of the officers is unavailable on June 13th
July 11th is the board meeting.
at 5:30.
Well, that's enough time for them to make a hole in the schedule.
Put it on their calendars.
I don't know. I don't know 100%, I think this is great, I've kinda talked about it since I've been on about trying to have a little one-on-one time with officers, cause everybody's going different directions and shifts. But if you could, is there any way you think we can ask, could they give us a ballpark of what questions are, so at least
yeah,
that,
I mean,
you know, at least it's something we could, if we can try to get some information, or maybe, you know,
Have a little forewarning. on-
You know, I mean,
I
Just so
think
we're-
it's something that can be followed up with after. Because
have
I'm
another
sure
meeting at another time.
this guy's gonna say this and say,
Uh-huh.
I'm really worried about, we need to do something about body cam.
So that
I'm
they
making
shouldn't,
stuff up.
they shouldn't expect answers at this first
Right,
meeting
right.
is what it should be.
Yeah,
You know,
and
if
it's
you want,
stuff
if it's
that
a concern or if it's
Y'all can
something.
follow up with down the road. So,
I don't know,
the appearance just doesn't ring to me here. You know, sure, I wanna talk to the police department. I have an opportunity to talk to every day. I've been here for what, 6 weeks now. I've met the police officers, I've met the former chief, talked with him several times, I've talked to John several times. There's nothing to prevent us from talking to them. You guys have been here for a full year, you guys have been here for many years. We should have
I think the issue is, they're not sure if they're voicing a concern to one board member, is the rest of the board ever hearing anything?
Typically not.
Right.
Yeah.
They want everybody on the same page.
Because everyone will hear it then, and no individual board person can really act on their own to do anything. We take board action to do something about whatever their concerns are.
Yeah, I
I
think.
don't even know what their concerns are.
I don't know either.
I think them hearing it coming from the board as a body, would give them a better reassurance than the individuals, because again, how many combinations are there individuals here versus there? You can see
Well,
where it could get. a
And
little
even
bit
with
strange.
the Officer Knox situation, he thought the board wasn't doing anything, and he said, well, I went to the board a handful of times, or whatever word he used. But he may have only gone to one or two of the board members. The board as a whole never really heard whatever concern it was that he may have been raising.
That would be true in that case.
Right, so I think that same scenario would play out if there was another situation that were to come up like that. I think some of the officers think if they go to one person, that means that automatically becomes a town board decision-making issue, and it doesn't.
And what,
But now they will come in front of the entire board.
Yes,
Where
they will.
it does make a difference,
Yes.
because we can speak. But, let's just give an example. They wanna know the security of their jobs. And they're concerned about committees and budget and discussion about a merger. We could say to them, well, at the annual meeting, the electorate said no. We could say at the April meeting, the board voted 3-2, no. Is that gonna satisfy the question?
Don't know.
We may not answer that question day of, is what I'm saying, with the questions are, we may have to have our own discussion on how we wanna present it as a board. To give an answer to any question, right, I mean, it's great, we can't.
Well, I think it's, the discussion would happen just like it's happening now.
But my scenario, I've given two concrete answers to the
Mhm.
question. Both would seem to say to the officer, the town has no interest in merger or continuation of even the discussion. We've had two concrete examples that thwart that from moving forward. Until when? Next April, when there's another election and there may be a different complexion of this town board?
Possibly. That might be the only answer you can give them.
Yeah.
Although there'll be
That's
contracts in
reality, right?
place then that are typically 3-year contracts, so that would at least give a little bit of assurance that maybe their 3-year contract would be honored.
So basically, we just wanna set this up for July, I don't know that we should keep discussing what we think they're gonna discuss, I think that